Okay, we see that now we're going to move on to, I think, 96. Here's the next step in the 30 years. First catalog training on VHS tapes.
Well, yeah, we did training classes, as you know, and then we also made training videos,
So you,
and which we shot, and but the only way you could distribute them was on VHS tapes.
yeah,
So we would send them out to people who wanted them, or I think we might have sold them. I forget.
yeah.
There's ads for them in these catalogs,
Wow,
which we can show. But
that's really cool. And so, at this point, when they would watch the videos, did they get any official certificate? When did the certification come into play? Was that in year one? If they did training, they get a certificate saying.
yeah, when we trained students in classrooms, we did it. We gave them a certificate. So we bought that certificate paper and printed out. You know, they're the logos and what they had been certified for, and then we'd sign them in class and hand them out to them. And I visit people's office today still, and they're still on the wall from that many years ago. Or they've taken the class over and over again over the years as we've introduced new products, as the class has improved. Some of your students now, since you're our primary trainer, you probably have trained some people that I may have trained a long time ago.
They come back, but they're thirsty because they realize how much innovation has taken place. They know themselves that, wow, what are these things they're carrying now? And they had no knowledge in the early years, and so they've evolved right along with the company, watching the whole thing unfold.
Yeah.
So then.
So in this catalog, 1997, which is up on the screen now, this is the first year that we introduced the bird shock.
Yeah, that's next on the list.
Yeah, and that was a big deal, even though it was 4 foot lengths of a strong, rigid product. We put that out there and did pretty well with it. But I was always trying to find a way to a roll up, long length, and took us a few years to develop that. So that was a few years later, so this is the 1997 catalog, and then the 2000 catalog, we finally said, okay, no more coil logo. So you see the new logo in the
oh wow, there it is
in the upper corner. Did you see that, Zach? I don't see it on the screen.
The blue bird, yeah.
Can you zoom out?
This,
because you're not getting the whole catalog.
You got it there.
There, you got to zoom out so you can.
Well,
there you go.
The catalog there is starting to look a lot cleaner too.
It's right where we agreed to put it. That's on the bottom there. That's on the bottom of the table. You have to crop on your end, but you can zoom out. Once you zoom out a little bit, you want to move the camera.
That's right. We'll edit this out, obviously.
Yeah, this will fade it out.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the table's still there in the top. That whole thing. Close enough.
All right, let's resume right on.
So so this is the 2000 catalog, and you can see the logo change. We finally decided to put a bird in it instead of a coil. So 7 years later, we added this bird bear logo, and this catalog featured the bird flight spikes, which is when we switched from another spike to the bird flight. And the new logo, as I mentioned. So
that's a nice design on that one too. It looks like you got some little more interesting graphics going on with it.
Yeah.
So and now we're at 2000. We go to, is this the next catalog?
This is 2001.
2001, and you introduce Gutter Point, which is a spike designed specifically for rain gutters on homes.
Yeah.
Well, so was it a process where you had gotten so many customers that the word from the field kept coming in, hey, do you have something for this? Do you have something for that? And then we saw enough of demand, like, for example, rain gutters. People were probably trying to mount bird spikes on the gutters.
That's exactly right, yeah. They were trying to mount them, and they weren't fitting, and so we said, well, there's an opportunity. Let's play around with it, and we came up with something that went on the inside of the gutter and clipped on the edge, and the spikes came up and out of the center of it, essentially, and it worked. But it's kind of a small niche product still for us. It never has been anywhere near the success of the spikes.
Well, it just demonstrates, as an observer, its necessity is the mother of invention, and we think that there's a lot of plotting and planning going in, research labs and all that, but primarily, I think one of the great things that it's demonstrating is how you listen to your customers and that you're always trying to fill those needs. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where I love just exploring all those and thinking about what, maybe there's a better way, always trying
Yeah.
to think to improve.
Well, we haven't stopped that process.
No.
There's still, you know, even though we've gone from 4 products to 600 or 700, and a 30-page catalog or a 4-page catalog up to 72-page catalog or whatever it is now, there's still needs out there. There's still things that need to be developed to solve particular types of bird problems that still aren't
When you
solvable.
say 600 or 700, you mean part numbers, but
Yeah.
but in terms of deterrence, there must be, you know, active in the industry. You see all different ones. Within our realm, we probably have like 40 key things that kind of overlap into each other. But
Yeah.
the thing that I've always been intrigued by and really proud of the fact that they aren't just devices that don't have proof of efficacy. That we you know, you take the product through its rigors of experimentation and make sure that they work effectively. And it was like the very first example of the coil up on a building where you're told no, but the capture and really see for yourself how well it works is really important to the future of the whole industry. I know as I've gotten involved with the electrical industry and utilities, it's the thing that matters more than anything to them. They want to know what proof do you have and how long have you gone through the testing process. And I guess that gets us to some of these other, now you mentioned the shock track was rigid at first.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So the first was rigid, but you said, well, it can't just be rigid. We need to be able to ship this, the roll method. And then I know that you innovated even with that. You came out with the braided cable that gets sewn in to the track itself.
Well, you're getting pretty far ahead of yourself.
Oh, jumped ahead. I'm sorry, but so it takes time to get to these.
Yeah. Well, here's the bird shock, the tubular sections, so you can just see it's plastic with these aluminum extruded tubes in. And so that's what it started off as. You can see corners down here, and it worked pretty well. Was this your idea primarily? I worked on this with a company that was developing it. We came up together and sort of partnered on it.
I see.
But then in 2004, this is the 2004 catalog here, and
so we're over 10 years into the early history, and now we're into the, you know, this middle realm of
can you zoom
barrier.
Out? Sorry, Zach. We really got to get these whole covers on if we can. Can you zoom out?
There we go. They should all be. They're all 8.5.
Are you seeing it different than what we are? There you go.
There we go.
Okay. So the next catalog, the 2004 catalog, came out, and right here it's featuring the first flexible bird shock that we came, the Flex Track, bird shock Flex Track. And people might notice that in the center of this photo here, there's a trough instead of a bump. And we thought, we didn't realize what a pain water was going to be. So we wanted to get the electrical conductors high so they hit the bird's feet. And we left the trough in the middle. And that filled with water and arced.
Oh, man.
So we quickly had to redesign that, and we put a little triangular bump in the center now, which is as it currently is.
Did you end up like investing a lot in inventory for the first version and had to throw it away, or were you kind of like doing small runs? And
we were doing small runs because we were still testing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned the braid. So there were a lot of people that had different kinds of bird shocks. Probably three or four versions, not called bird shock, but electrical tracks around the world. And they always were a flexible base with a rigid metal, probably pretty thin metal, so it could roll up. But they still were, metal is a rigid, it's a strong, it's a solid, and PVC or flexible is more like a fabric.
Yeah. And
so you always have these issues marrying the two together, making them stay glued together or riveted or whatever, and it was always pretty rudimentary. And then I was at Radio Shack one day looking on the shelf, and I always like to go to electrical stores and other hardware stores, just look at the shelves and get ideas. and I saw this braided metal, which is used as a grounding wire or an insulator or electrical conductor. And I looked at that and I said, that, because it's got the wires woven through, that might glue better to it, or it might be able to melt it into the plastic, into the PVC in a way of something that it might stick if the PVC plastic went through the wires. So actually none of those ideas worked either. But I went to one of our vendors, a company here in LA that has been making lots of things for us over the years, and I showed it to the guy. I said, I've got this base and I've got this braid. And he said, we should sew it. And I said, I don't like that idea at all. That's going to look weird. It's not going to last. And he goes, no, we can sew it and it'll be awesome. I said, all right, you try it.
Great.
And
that's awesome.
And he did, and it came out really well. It's been a great solution, to the point where you can tie it in a knot, pull it tight, untie it, and everything's still perfect. The metal's not trying to spring off. It's not
perfect example of solving a problem and just staying with it, because the product from that time hasn't really changed in 20 years.
Actually, there was one more big development on it a few years later, but he then came to me and said, I've found industrial sewing machine with 2 needles, so we can run it through and stitch both sides at the same time, instead of running it once and then back through. So now he's set up with, and I gave him the business. You can sew this forever. And he has 2 people on 2 machines side by side sewing all day, every day. That's how much. So there was one problem with the bird shock still, from an arcing standpoint, and that was that when you mounted it on a metal surface, because one of the conductors has got high voltage, hot positive wire going through it, that could still go through the needle holes as it's stitched. The power could go down through the needle hole to a wet ledge, and it would snap. It would make a snapping, arcing sound. And so that's why a couple years later we came up with the insulated base.